Plus, torrential downpours in the Northeast leave hundreds stranded. And leaders on Capitol Hill are raising concerns about a new energy drink's effect on kids. Newswatch starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Morgan Anderson. Welcome to Newswatch. Cleveland police are still on the lookout for a man who shot at least 9 people. Police say the victims include 7 men and 2 women. Their ages range between 23 to 38, and at least 2 people underwent surgery. No word is on their conditions. Detectives say it's unclear what sparked the violence, but Cleveland Police Chief Wayne Drummond is vowing to track him down.
We're going to do our very best, and I think we're doing a good job to hold those responsible for committing these heinous acts. And we're going to find that individual and hold them accountable.
The gun violence in Cleveland is just the latest mass shooting this year. The group Gun Violence Archive has recorded at least 365 mass shootings in 2023. Today is the last day to register to vote for the August special election. The only question on the ballot will be Issue 1, which would raise the threshold to pass constitutional amendments from a simple majority to 60%. The election was not on the calendar until just 2 months ago, when lawmakers first put the issue forward in May. Both supporters and opponents are pushing for Ohioans to get out and vote. Republican Secretary of State LaRose, a man backer of Issue 1, says turnout for this election will be critical for such an important change. Early voting for Issue 1 starts tomorrow. A Nelsonville City Council woman has just left council, resigning right moments before tonight's meeting. Newswatch reporter Haley Hollinger is live at Nelsonville City Hall with the latest. Haley?
Thanks, Morgan. Councilwoman Glenda Tingle announced her resignation moments before the judiciary meeting began. Councilman Greg Clement informed the public of Tingle's resignation before the meeting. I spoke to Tingle, and she said she's stepping down on the advice of her doctor and her husband. Moving forward, she hopes to find a little bit of peace and quiet, as well as defend herself from allegations that have been made by other members of the council. In other news, the council still has their finance committee meeting, and it is set to take up further discussion on the city's electric contract. The city previously had 2 contracts, one signed in 2021 with AEP and one signed this year with Freepoint Energy Solutions. Both are set to begin this month. Council members discussed going with AEP at a special meeting last week, but they're going to need to officially make the decision with legislations. And there's the matter of termination fees that come with ending an electricity contract early. The Finance Committee will be discussing where the money to pay the fees will come from. We'll keep you updated with the latest from Nelsonville right here at WOUB. Reporting for Newswatch, I'm Haley Hollinger in Nelsonville.
Thanks, Haley. Get back safe. A state representative from Summit County has been asked to resign after being charged with domestic violence. Republican Bob Young of Greene pled not guilty in court Saturday of domestic violence in a felony disrupting public service. This comes after an alleged incident following a fundraiser on Thursday. House Speaker Jason Stevens said in a statement that he was present at this fundraiser, and after learning about what occurred after, he was, quote, disappointed and shocked, end quote. Stevens also said he believes Young is innocent until proven guilty, but Young's resignation is necessary so he can focus on his family. The city of Marietta will be smoke testing the city's sewer system this week. Infiltration is unsanitary wastewater that enters a sewer system through problem areas in the ground, which contribute to sewer overflow. The smoke testing aims to further locate problem areas, which will avoid more sewer overflow. The city is asking residents to make sure all drain traps under sinks, toilets, washing facilities, and floor drains have water in them. The testing will occur this week, Monday through Friday. After last week's hot temperatures, it's been a welcome surprise to see a little cool off. You're taking a live look outside at Ohio University's campus on what is shaping out to be a beautiful evening here in Athens and Southeast Ohio. Joining us live is Newswatch forecaster Emily Dietz. Emily, how long is this nice weather going to last?
Well, it's going to last a little while. You know, we had some lovely weather this weekend, a little bit of rain on Saturday, but lovely weather today. It's going to be lovely tomorrow as well. Just a bit hot though, unfortunately, but we're still going to see those cloudless skies. And even going into Wednesday and Thursday, we might see a little bit of rain, but still a little bit too early to tell just quite yet. But I know I'm really enjoying it, even though it is a little hot outside.
No kidding.
Let's take a look at what's going on right now in Athens, Ohio. It's about 86 outside with clear skies, calm winds, just a nice day to be outside, but that heat index is a little high, unfortunately, so it's about, may feel like 90 degrees outside, so it's a bit on the warmer side of things. We see our temperatures overnight dropped into the 50s, so it's a bit of a cooler night than what we've been seeing the past couple of days, and that's because we don't really have that cloud coverage. But right now in Athens, it's about 86 as well, and about the mid to lower 80s in the rest of the southeast Ohio area. So again, really warm temperatures, and we're going to see these actually rise a little bit going into tomorrow, and I'll talk about that here in just a little bit. Now, the main reason we're seeing a lot of these clear skies and these warm temperatures is because we have this high pressure that just really moved into Ohio quite nicely, and you can see it's stretching across the central U.S. as well. And that's pushing a lot of that cloud coverage that we saw away. Since we previously had this low pressure system that's now drenching New York, that was actually here Saturday night. So if you were awake for that thunderstorm, that's what that was, but that is pushing off towards the east, and we won't be seeing any more of that, fortunately for us. But we've got high pressure sitting on us now, and it's looking to be a lovely day the next couple of days as far as sunshine goes, but still a little warm. Be sure to stay tuned for my full forecast to look at what's coming up later this week. Back over to you, Morgan.
Thanks, Emily. Wayne National Forest is receiving federal money to clean up its abandoned oil wells. 29 oil and gas wells in the forest are to be plugged and remediated as part of President Joe Biden's plan to clean up national parks and forests. Oil wells were often dug in the 1800s by anyone who needed oil and were abandoned as soon as they stopped producing. Orphaned wells pose a risk to the environment. They can leak oil into the surrounding wildlife, and they can also leak methane, a greenhouse gas that contributes to climate change. The Biden administration says there are almost 130,000 abandoned wells in the country. Muskingum University names Jennifer Dugan as the new provost for the university. Dugan previously served as the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of Pikeville in Kentucky, and she will now serve as the Chief Academic Officer, providing leadership in academic affairs. Dugan graduated from California State University and earned her doctorate in political science from the University of California. Ohio teachers are receiving a raise as part of the recently signed two-year budget bill. As written in the bill, the annual minimum pay for teachers in the state of Ohio is now up to $35,000. A raise was introduced to the legislature earlier this year, with the proposed minimum annual teacher salary being up to $50,000, but it has since decreased throughout the legislative process. Despite the nearly $10,000 increase from the previous annual minimum, people like Ohio Federation of Teachers President Melissa Cropper says lawmakers could have done more to support teachers.
An increase, I guess, is good, but it's, in our opinion, it's a slap in the face to teachers across the state to not recognize that 30 was ridiculously low, and to raise it to 35,000 does very, very little.
The Federation will continue to advocate for more benefits, for teachers. They say retention is one of the largest issues in the field. Ohio Brew Week ceremonial keg tapping introduces brew lovers to this year's Brew Week special brew. Just over an hour ago, Jackie O's unveiled this year's winner. It's called Honey Sunrise. Every year, Jackie O's brews a special batch of beer just for Brew Week, chosen in honor of the event's founder, John Sparhawk. The brew honors Sparhawk, who was a big supporter of small businesses and young entrepreneurs, by partnering with the Ohio University Chemistry Department's summer brewing class. The class is challenged to create a recipe just for Brew Week. Brew Week began Friday with first call, but the keg tapping ceremony marks the official opening of the week's festivities. Art Ostrike, the president and co-founder of Jackie O, says it doesn't get much better than this.
This is the perfect town to host something like this. We're used to handling college students, and drunk adults are just really a sight for sore eyes here in the summer. So it's really a great showcase for what Ohio and Athens has to offer.
Jackie O's and Ohio Brew Week are celebrating its 18th anniversary this year. Coming up after the break, a historic rainfall floods the Northeast and leaves hundreds stranded. Plus, lawmakers in Washington are raising questions of whether or not one energy drink is safe for children.
We're going to continue to see some high pressure stay over the area, giving us some cloudless skies but some hot temperatures these next couple of days. Stay tuned for that when Newswatch returns.
On Finding Your Roots, Angelica Houston.
No idea that she was living this kind of life.
Mia Farrow.
It's much worse than I thought it would be.
And Isabella Rossellini.
She always said that she didn't want to have roots.
Ancestry uncovers a painful past.
I see why my father never mentioned his father now.
As DNA reveals.
You want to meet this person?
A surprise.
That's hysterical.
Finding Your Roots.
Tuesday at 8 on WOUB.
I was on a kayak whale watching trip in California when this happened. A humpback whale breached on top of us.
How can you get that close to something that big and not die?
I was drawn into a much bigger story. There were other close encounters with whales.
I became obsessed with whales, and that's where the detective work starts.
Wednesday at 8 on WOUB.
Welcome to the age of humans.
Do you think being a biologist makes you a better hunter?
I think it goes both ways.
We've got to have a way to keep this a shared landscape.
2 to 3 million whales were killed.
The pursuit of this wild duck connects people to past generations. We feed ourselves, and we feed our family, and we feed our culture.
Wednesday at 9 on WOUB.
A frozen desert world, but once blue with water, and perhaps more?
What everybody wants to know is whether or not Mars once had life.
And if it still survives today.
Finding the organic matter is the clue to searching for life.
The planets, Mars, on Nova.
Wednesday at 10 on WOUB.
Historic flooding in the Northeast has caused at least one death and tens of millions of dollars in property loss, with both water levels and damage estimates expected to keep rising in the coming hours. Laura Aguirre has the latest.
This is the new normal.
New York State, back in the epicenter of extreme weather, just days after savage July 4th storms. The governor there mobilizing resources and declaring a state of emergency in Orange County, where one woman died after being swept away by fast-moving floodwaters. In West Point, New York, many roads have turned into rivers, with rainfall levels there being called once in a millennium. Forecasters predict up to 2 inches per hour could fall in some areas through Monday.
This is devastating. This used to be a stream, and now it's a roaring river.
Many residents in New Hampshire and Vermont can only watch helplessly as rushing water ravages property.
It's not just the initial damage, it's the wave, the second wave, and the third wave. And we're trying to anticipate that.
Well, I just washed my car and swim away.
In Reading, Pennsylvania, a daily rainfall record set in 1952 was shattered by 1.5 inches, and millions of people remain under severe weather alerts in the region through Tuesday morning. New York's governor blames a broader issue for the floods and says all levels of government must work together to address it.
How we can stand up and using every bit of our power, mobilizing to fight the ravages of climate change, because again, these are unprecedented weather events that keep hitting us over and over and over again.
Reporting for Newswatch, I'm Laura Aguirre.
Joining us again is Newswatch forecaster Emily Dietz. Emily, what more can you tell us about this system, and is it going to come into our region at all?
Yeah, well, fortunately for us, we won't be seeing anything like this. That low pressure system that's actually over there now is what came through Saturday night, and it just sort of intensified, because when you have low pressure that sort of stacks through the atmosphere, it just creates this really strong system, as opposed to having a low pressure that's just sort of on the surface. And it picks up all this moisture, creates all this convection, and that's why we're seeing a lot of rain in New York right now. So we're really fortunate to not have all of that downpouring on us. But a quick look at what's going on right now. now with our clear skies here in Athens, Ohio. It's about 86 right now and may feel a little bit warmer than that since the sun has been shining. And if you went outside at all, it'd feel pretty hot, and we're going to continue to see this trend throughout the rest of the day. And as of right now, our recorded high is 84. We're expecting that to jump up a little bit as we get more data in. We're seeing mostly sunny skies. You may notice a couple of upper level clouds going on, and that's mainly just because we don't have a lot of moisture in the atmosphere. So when you don't have a lot of moisture, you can't get those low level clouds. You don't get those rain clouds like you see, but when that moisture goes up really high, you see those higher atmospheric clouds. That means that moisture is all the way up in the atmosphere, and that typically means a more stable environment. That's a lot of the time what you see when you have this high pressure like we're seeing in the central U.S. Now we're going to take a look at what's going on in the other parts of the country. Here's that low pressure system that's absolutely swamping New York right now, producing a lot of heavy rainfall. But we're going to take a look at what's going on to the northwest of us, because that low pressure and that cold front are actually going to start to make their way down towards Ohio coming in on Thursday. And what's going on is we have a bit of high pressure above it that's forcing it downward, and that's creating this troughing pattern. And you see that something very similar going on down to the south. So when you have once again, that stacked high pressure that takes over this low pressure, since things move from an area of high pressure to low pressure, and just forces all of that rain just downward. And we'll continue to monitor that throughout the rest of this week. Unfortunately for us, things aren't quite as hot as they were last week. We saw record-breaking heats, but things are slightly cooler, not too much. We're still seeing 80s and 90s, and we'll continue to see a rise in temperature tomorrow since we have sunny skies just following all of that high pressure. But for tonight, we'll see a low of about 57. And since we don't have clouds overnight, all that daytime heating just leaves since we're losing that layer of insulation. So we'll actually see a little bit of patchy fog, which may lead to a bit of a dewy morning tomorrow. And speaking of tomorrow, it'll be a high of about 88 and maybe even a little bit hotter than that with mostly sunny skies. So it'll be a nice day to get outside. But if you're going to get outside, make sure you're wearing plenty of sunscreen, because that UV index around 1 o'clock is going to be 9. And that means your burn time is about 15 to 25 minutes. So make sure you're drinking plenty of water and wearing plenty of sunscreen. Now that high pressure is going to continue to stay in our area going on tomorrow as this low pressure starts to make its way down towards the southwest. And it looks like up in New York, things will start to slow down as far as rain goes. Really hoping everyone stays safe up in New York. But for us on Wednesday, that low pressure and that rain is going to move in towards Ohio, and a lot of the storm system is going to stay out to the west, so we won't be getting a lot of this. We may just be looking at a little bit of rain going on, but Tuesday and Wednesday are looking pretty hot so far. It's going to be up in the 80s, up in the 90s, and Thursday, excuse me, I may have misinformed you for a second there. Thursday is actually when we're going to be seeing that rain coming through, not on Wednesday. We're looking at an 80% chance of showers. It'll be about the mid-80s, and the rest of this week is still looking pretty hot and pretty rainy. So hopefully have a great rest of this week, and y'all are staying cool. Back to you, Morgan.
Thanks, Emily. After last week's record high temperatures globally, advocates warn that this might not just be a summer problem and fear that the warm weather could affect the well-being of American farmers. According to the National Institute of Health, farm workers are 35 times more likely to die of heat exposure compared to other industries. In 2021, extremely high temperatures in the summer led to numerous deaths of farm workers across the Pacific Northwest and led the Biden administration to move forward on creating federal heat protections for workers. California is one of the few states that has adopted its own standards for extreme heat conditions, including keeping cool water nearby and providing shade for workers. A government agency is proposing new rules to change the amount credit card companies can charge for late fees. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is trying to make it less painful for consumers who don't pay their credit card fee on time. It's proposing to slash late fees from an average of $41 to $8 per violation. The 100% minimum payment requirement companies can charge would also be reduced to 25%. Consumers would also have a 15-day grace period for those who pay late. The banking industry opposes these changes. Bankers warn the changes would hurt the industry's bottom line. Lawmakers are raising the alarm over a popular energy drink. It has 6 times the caffeine of a can of Coke and poses a health risk to children and teenagers. Gloria Pazmino reports.
It's one of the hottest trends of the summer.
Uh-oh.
Now, the influencer-created energy drink Prime is facing growing scrutiny.
This is an eye-popping level of caffeine for a young kid's body.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is calling on the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to investigate the product. Prime energy drinks contain more than double the caffeine of a can of Red Bull and 6 times more caffeine than a can of Coca-Cola.
The amount of caffeine in these drinks can give children and teens headaches. It can give them jitters, nervousness. It can interfere with the sleep cycle, which is so important to the developing brain.
According to its website, the company does not recommend the energy drinks for anyone under the age of 18. Still, Schumer claims the company is targeting children through social media.
Kids see it on their phones as they scroll, and then they actually have a need for it.
The company also sells a caffeine-free drink called Prime Hydration, but there are concerns the branding between the two products are too similar.
Because the product is billed as a hydration and sports drink in its other near-identical form, kids are likely to ingest cans of this stuff with the parents being unaware.
I'm Gloria Pasmino reporting.
After the break, why you shouldn't fear a colonoscopy. And to stay up to date on the latest from Newswatch, check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube.
Welcome to the age of humans.
Do you think being a biologist makes you a better hunter?
I think it goes both ways.
We've got to have a way to keep this a shared landscape.
2 to 3 million whales were killed.
The pursuit of this wild duck connects people to past generations. We feed ourselves, and we feed our family, and we feed our culture.
Wednesday at 9 on WOUB.
Next time on Antiques Roadshow, this is Irene. Irene's grandfather made this violin.
He was highly regarded. He worked for the top players of that time. Holy Hannah, wowzer. Shut the front door, girl. Are you serious?
Does this musical heirloom tug at your heartstrings? Watch next time on Antiques Roadshow from Omaha, Nebraska.
Monday at 8 on WOUB.
Korean-American director So Young-um calls herself a liquor store baby. Join her journey to bridge generational and racial divides in her downtown Los Angeles community.
Our identity, Korean American, children of liquor store owners. We don't quite feel home in Korea, and we don't quite feel home here in America.
Liquor Store Dreams on POV.
Monday at 10 on WOUB.
A frozen desert world, but once blue with water, and perhaps more?
What everybody wants to know is whether or not Mars once had life.
And if it still survives today.
Finding the organic matter is the clue to searching for life.
The planets, Mars, on Nova.
Wednesday at 10 on WOUB.
The latest data from the American Cancer Society shows 1 in 5 new cases of colorectal cancer are in patients in their early 50s or younger. And no matter your age, colonoscopies can not only detect cancer, but prevent it. Mandy Gaither shows what goes into the procedure and explains why doctors say you shouldn't be afraid of getting one.
At age 45, Merlane Pierre was having bowel problems.
Constipation, stomach hurting a lot.
Her doctor recommended a colonoscopy, but Pierre says she was nervous about the procedure and put it off for about a year.
Then I decided, you know what, let me just go ahead and do it for the sake of my kids.
I understand most people are somewhat fearful, but I think the fear is misguided.
Dr. Bruce Salzberg says most patients are afraid of the bowel prep. From pills to liquids, different doctors prescribe different methods to clean a patient's colon out at home. The person will also be on a clear liquid diet the day before up until the procedure. Before a colonoscopy, anesthesia is given. Salzberg says patients don't feel anything during the procedure.
This is a colonoscope, and yes, it's a long black tube, the dreaded long black tube. And what it is basically a camera.
Doctors use knobs to control the movement of the camera, which can turn left, right, up, and down.
We clean out the colon with our fluids that we have, and we insert air to inflate the colon. And then as we withdraw the scope, that's when we look in a 360-degree manner and check under all the folds, anywhere that looks to be suspicious, and we identify if there's anything abnormal.
If a polyp is found, it's removed, reducing risk of cancer.
You don't feel that. You don't have any nerve endings in your colon.
Pierre's procedure came back clear. She doesn't have to do it again for another 5 years.
Coming out of it, definitely nothing to worry about.
For Health Minute, I'm Andy Gaither.
When we return, a new study finds family game night may help kids better their math skills. But first, here's a look at what's coming up tonight on your public television station.
On Finding Your Roots, Angelica Houston.
No idea that she was living this kind of life.
Mia Farrow.
It's much worse than I thought it would be.
And Isabella Rossellini.
She always said that she didn't want to have roots.
Ancestry uncovers a painful past.
I see why my father never mentioned his father now.
As DNA reveals.
You want to meet this person?
A surprise.
That's hysterical.
Finding Your Roots.
Tuesday at 8 on WOUB.
Next time on Antiques Roadshow, this is Irene. Irene's grandfather made this violin.
He was highly regarded. He worked for the top players of that time. Holy Hannah, wowzer. Shut the front door, girl. Are you serious?
Does this musical heirloom tug at your heartstrings? Watch next time on Antiques Roadshow from Omaha, Nebraska.
Monday at 8 on WOUB.
Korean-American director So Young-um calls herself a liquor store baby. Join her journey to bridge generational and racial divides in her downtown Los Angeles community.
Our identity, Korean American, children of liquor store owners, we don't quite feel home in Korea, and we don't quite feel home here in America.
Liquor Store Dreams on POV.
Monday at 10 on WOUB.
On episode 2 of La Frontera, I'm exploring from Baja California to Nogales, Arizona, through the heart of the Sonoran Desert, where medical tourism is booming.
We came to get some dental work done, actually.
An ancient tribe reignites a passion for traditional foods.
I like to think of our food as survival food.
And a migrant is transformed by art. Join me, Patty Hinich, on La Frontera.
Friday at 10 on WOUB.
Finally tonight, family game night may help make learning math more fun for kids. That's according to a new study published last week